Before we go any further, as we agreed, we need to change the label to show the parcel number and the area. Let's have a quick look at a standard land title and the way information is shown there, so we can work in our example to get very similar layout to land title certificate. As you can see, the standard layout for a land title certificate shows, for example, for this property here, it shows the allotment number. That's what we're trying to show in our design, the allotment number here, and it shows in a slightly smaller font size the area for that property. On each one of these boundaries, which is what we call in parcel segment, each one of those is a segment, and all of them, they form a parcel for that property. So for each parcel segment we have the length and the direction, the bearing direction. So all what we need to keep in mind, that we need to show the property number or the allotment number or the parcel number in a thick bold text, slightly larger text. Underneath we need to show the area in square meters in a slightly smaller text comparing to the parcel number, and there's no decimal digits. As you can see, it's 430. We don't show, for example, 430.7 square meters. If it was 430.7, that means we'll show 431 square meters. We round it to the closest figure. For the parcel segments, what we need to show the distance of each segment or the length of each segment and the bearing for it. And for the distance, we're showing the distance in meters with 2 decimal digits. So let's work towards this format. To start with, we need to change the label of the property itself to show the property number and the square meters for the area. So to do that, the easier way, just select one of these parcel labels and we will amend that parcel label and we will apply that amendment to all the parcels. Go to the properties. On the properties we can see the label style for that area. If we open the menu, that will give us a choice to create or edit the labels. So if we click on that, what we need to do is to create a new parcel label, shows the parcel number and the square meters. So we can create a new one by choosing here create new, or we can just work with one of the existing and amending that, which will take half of the work for us. So what we can do, or let's create a new one, for example. So I will call it parcel area number, area SQM for square meters. Go to the layout of that label. That's where most of the amendments will happen. So the first component of that, we have the area. So if we add another one for a text, we'll call that text, first of all, the parcel number. We need the text to be slightly larger, so instead of 2.5, we'll choose 3.5 millimeters for that. And for the content of that text, rather than just a labeled text, we'll choose from the menu to give us the parcel number. We'll delete existing and we'll add the parcel number. So now we've got that label to read the parcel number. What we need to do to make that parcel number in a thick font, so we can just go, we can change the font, maybe choose the Arial font, and we can make it thicker and make it in the center. Press OK. As we can see on the preview, that created the parcel number in a thick font, great, but we still have underneath, we still have the parcel number again and area underneath that. So let's check what we've got there. So for the parcel, for the area, what we have here, it's called area and let's check what's the component for that area. It does have the area and the parcel number in one text. So we already included the parcel number, we don't need this anymore. And for the area, we need to add at the end of that m square. So I just typed m here, and to add the square we have to go back to the format, choose from the symbols, others, choose the right text, the simplex text. If you don't find it, just scroll down all the way to the S, or just type SI. That will bring you close enough to the simplex. So if I look here, that's the simplex we're looking for, and we're looking for the symbol of square. Select and copy, close this menu, and we go back here and paste. So simply now it's reading the area and giving us the number for the area, square meters. We don't need it to write the text of area, so I'll delete that. We just need the area in square meters. That's all we are after. Go back to the property of that, and we'll check it's reading the area for precision of 0.01. We don't need that. We need it to a precision of 1 only. We need the figure to be rounded to the closest full square meters, and the value in square meters, that's what we want. So we'll go OK. I'm just looking at it now, so it shows this is the preview. It shows the allotment number and shows underneath the area in square meters. All what we need to do just to offset those two away from each other. So we can choose to offset, for example, the area below the parcel number. So I'm working with the area label. I'll ask for it to be offset down, which is negative because it's down, negative 4 millimeters. Let's try that, and that will look like this. That looks okay, and let's make them both aligned to each other on the center. So I've got this on the middle center, and the anchoring to the feature, let's anchor it to the parcel number. Middle, top, or top center. So we'll set it down a bit more, 8 millimeters or 7. I'm just going by the preview here, so that looks okay to me. For the parcel, it's attached to the feature, it means the parcel area. That's great, that's what we're after. Let's try that and go okay. Parcel area, square meters and number. Perfect, that's what we're after, exactly. Okay, so now we created simply a new parcel label. What we have to do to apply, we need to apply this parcel label to all parcels. We can either select all the parcels and go to changing what we've done from here. I can go one by one and change them from here. Or what we can do, just simply from here, from the parcels, if I click on the parcels, that will open that table for all the parcels, and part of that table here shows the area label style. I can just select, edit all of them. Well, we had to select them all first. Control A to select them all. Area label style, edit, choose that, go OK. That will change all the labels on the drawing. Now I'm just looking at it, there's an issue here about the area measurement. It shows two decimal digits. We don't want that, we want it just to be a full rounded number. Let's go double check what's going on. Create and edit. We'll choose to edit current selection this time, and we'll go to the area label, check the content of that. If I click on it, still it didn't change the rounding because we forgot to press the arrow here. So by pressing the arrow, we go OK, apply and OK. That will change all the labels to the format that we want. So this is a important process, guys, that you learn for changing labels or creating new labels on Tut3. It's very similar process to what we've done for changing the pairing format. So just try it a few times, get used to it. It's very handy when you get your head around the process, because that will allow you to change almost all the labels formats on the objects that you're creating in terms of lines, alignment, parcels, profile. Any object that you're creating that needs to be labeled, we follow roughly the same process for changing these labels. One last thing before we go ahead, the annotation size on our drawing is large. Usually we go with 1 to 200 for working with parcels. This is the standard scale that we print out the parcels with. So if I change my annotation scale here to 1 to 200, if you do that, there's a chance nothing will change on your drawings. For one reason, just for the graphic view, it will take some time to update. Don't stress too much about it. Just change it to 1 to 200, and you'll see as we progress in the design, all of those will change. If you want to, you can just simply save your work, close, and open again. You'll find that all this annotation scale being updated. As you can see, it's much smaller now. It's relatively small comparing to the size of these blocks, but after we subdivide them to smaller blocks, you'll find all of these sizes are suitable to what you want. Okay, so now we've finished working with all the existing components that we had previously from AutoCAD, or what we prepared initially as a AutoCAD rough layout for our project. Now our job to start subdividing these blocks of land to smaller allotments for properties. So now we are ready. We finished converting all the existing objects that we had from the previous layout to parcels, and each one of these polylines being changed to a parcel segment, and the space within that polyline being converted to a parcel. What we need to do now, our next step, to start subdividing these larger blocks to smaller properties. For each one of those, that will represent a property for a house to be built on it. So to do that, this is the second type of creating parcels. We can start creating parcels rather than from an existing object. We're creating parcels from nothing, from space. Simply, we are subdividing the land. For example, I'll start with this allotment here. I need to subdivide it for a group of blocks. Each one of those will be about 350 square meters in area, and they require for each one of those to be 10 meters wide, for example. So if we go to parcels, Parcel Creation tools this time. From the Parcel Creation tool, when you open it, it may appear like that. So you can just extend the menu from the arrows here on the right hand side. We have few tools for creating parcels. One of the main tools we'll be using is the create parcel from either a slide line or a swing line. Mainly we'll start with the slide line, and you'll see the meaning of a slide line in a second. So if I choose to create a parcel using a slide line, will ask me under what side, the same standard questions. So we'll need under side 1. Instead of a property, we're looking for a single family, as we agreed, because we moved on to smaller allotments at this stage. And for the parcel label, we will choose the new label that we created, parcel area in square meters and the parcel number. As we agreed, we're not going to show any segments label at this stage. We will label all the segments at the end. So this option here will remain unticked. We'll go OK. And here are the options of the parameters of our design. For the first, we're asking for the minimum site area. As we agreed, we're looking for about 350 square meters for that block of land. And the frontage, we're looking for about 10 meters wide blocks or properties. This option here is asking, where do you want to measure this frontage? Do you want to measure the frontage at the edge of the property? So if I choose no, that means I'm choosing to measure the frontage at the edge of the property near the road at the front. If I choose yes, I can apply an offset. As you can see the arrow here, an offset for that property frontage to be measured, and that will be very good option for blocks of lands where they are narrow at the front and wide at the back, because that will allow us the option to, rather than measuring the width of the block at the street where it's very narrow, we can measure the width of the block at a certain offset. Usually it's 5 meters. That's how 5 to 6 meters. That's how much we set the building back from the street. In other words, it doesn't matter if it was very narrow at the start, less than 10 meters, but at 5 meters within the block, if I have a 10 meters wide block, that should be fine to allow to build the house on the land. So in our case, we're creating rectangular. As you can see here, we'll be able to create rectangular shapes. So this is not a very useful option for us. So we choose just at 5 meters anyway, won't make any difference for the offset. The other option here asking for the minimum width of the property, and this will help for the opposite side of this arrangement. In other words, let's assume that the road is here and we have this block goes narrower at the back. So if we apply a minimum width at a certain depth, which is the option after, that will ensure that we will have a certain width for a certain distance away from the street, if that makes sense. So that will make sure at least I will get the minimum width, what we're asking for, which is we will specify here, again 10 meters, at least 20 meters from the street. The last option here asking for if we need to apply a maximum depth for each one of these allotments. So we don't want our allotments to be more than, for example, 45 meters deep. This option here, we'll use it later on. That's just to show which one is the dominant factor between the two. Is it going to measure first the minimum area, and after we subdivide to certain blocks with the minimum area, then we check the frontage, or is it the other way around? We subdivide the blocks to a group of lands with the minimum frontage and then we check the areas after. So this option usually is helpful just after. You can switch between the two options and see which one will give you better design. Now for the automatic layout, as you will see in a second, this will allow us to produce a layout for the entire block of land. So I'll choose yes for the automatic layout rather than designing each one of those separately. And the last option is asking, after I subdivide this block of land for a group of properties, I get to the last one, I find it doesn't fit for 2 and it's too large for 1. So for the remaining area, what do you want to do with that? We have 3 options. We either create a separate allotment with that remaining, or redistribute that remaining to all the blocks, or shall I just keep it to the last block of land? We'll see these options in a second. So if we go ahead with what we currently have, the first selection, as you can see here, to select the parcel to be subdivided. So to select the parcel, if you need to select the parcel as we discussed before, or what you have to do, just select the parcel title. So if I select that label, that's already selected the entire parcel here. The second thing is asking select the frontage, and when we select the front, all what we have to do is selecting a starting point, and if I move the indicator, that will start drawing the frontage. That's not what we want, so we want the other way around. So I'll move it here all the way to that point and click for the end. That is showing the frontage of these blocks of lands that we're creating. The third option is asking for specify the angle. In other words, at what angle do you want to create these allotments? Do you want them on a certain angle? But we want them, for our case, we want those blocks to be at 90 degrees, so perpendicular to the front. What we can do, either press enter, that will take the current option of 90 degrees, or you can just type 90. So I'll just press enter, and that gave us the design of these allotments. Each one of those is about 10 meters wide and should be minimum of 350 square meters in area. So it's asking me, do you accept the results or the solution? I can choose yes or no. Now let's look at these options as we discussed. The one option I need to look at is the remaining area. What do you want to do with this remaining area? What we currently have placed the reminder in the last parcel. So as you can see, all of those being subdivided. I have an extra space here being added to the last one. I can choose to redistribute that to all allotments. And this is the use now of the second option. If you remember, I told you I usually use that just to come up with the better design between the two. If I choose use smallest area first, that will give me a better layout. As you can see, if we go back to this option here, by choosing redistribute the remaining area, that means all that green area there wasn't needed initially, but it was extra area here at the end. So what we've done, we redistributed that area to all allotments, or we can just simply create a new parcel just from that extra area. That's not what we want to do. Usually 90% we go with the option of redistribute the remainder for all the blocks. So just to go back to this option here, this option just to choose which parameter Civil 3D will design with first. Is it going to design for the area first, checking that all the areas are met and then checking the frontage, or is it going to check if the frontage is met first and then checking the areas for each one of those? That's why, as I said, I use this option just to give me a better design or better layout for my design. I usually just shift between two of them and see which one will give me a better design. Obviously, use the smallest area gave me the better design for our case here. So all I have to do is just choose yes, and Civil 3D already subdivided all of those to new blocks of land. Each one of those, as you can see, has the parcel number and the area for each one. If I close and have a close look at what we've got, so as you can see, each one of those has more than 350 meters square in area. And if I check the width for each allotment, it's 10.37. In other words, we met all the conditions that we applied, and all of those being subdivided to new allotments.